let's get started. So as explained earlier, it'll be 3 parts of this webinar. The 5 steps to get your organization to launch micro-credentials. How we've come up with these 5 steps is through the conversations that my team and we've had with universities, training providers who are interested in micro-credentials, even at the infancy stage, where they just want to know what it is about, or how they can move about in perhaps developing and launching micro-credentials to offer to their clients or the public. So the first step is to understand what micro-credentials is. The second is to dedicate a team or teams for micro-credentials in your organization. The third is to plan the strategy. The fourth is to develop the micro-credential courses. And the fifth is to launch and promote. These are the 5 main steps, which I will cover in more detail in the following slides. So the first is the basics. Here I will break down what micro-credentials is. If we look at it, it's 2 words, micro and credentials. When we think of micro, some of the words that come to mind in the context of micro-credentials, micro, as you understand, it means small. It's bite-sized, shorter. Shorter refers to how micro-credential courses are shorter compared to your conventional traditional courses. It may not necessarily be part of a lengthy diploma program. It can be something smaller, but yet you will still obtain the knowledge or the skills that is expected from the words. The other words that come to mind is recognition. It is recognized by someone else, which is an organization. When we say someone else, it means when somebody looks at what it is, a piece of paper, like a certificate, for example, it resonates with them. They recognize it immediately. Accreditation refers to a body which would be responsible in giving out the recognition that comes with a credential that is taken by micro-credentials. Some other words are digital, certificate, and badge. So micro-credentials is based on the concept of micro-learning. It is knowledge, skill, or competency-based. A familiar term that you will hear often with micro-credentials is stackable. What this means is that even though the courses are short and they can be offered as a standalone, they also complement each other, where they can be stacked into part of a bigger qualification. Short courses can also be micro-credentials. However, a short course without a certificate or a badge is not classified as a micro-credential. So sometimes a question you may have is, what is the difference between a short course and a micro-credential? So a short course can be a micro-credential if it comes with a certificate or a badge. And it also comes with skills, knowledge, and competency outcomes. So it is a bit more specific, but more importantly, it must come with a certification, a credential. This does not mean that your organization can't offer short courses. You can still offer short courses. Some people may still offer short course if they don't want to get a recognition for it. Sometimes people just want to learn for fun. That way, you can still offer short courses. MQA has released the micro-credentials guidelines and good practices, GGP, last year. And here they have defined micro-credentials as digital certification of assessed knowledge, skills, and competencies in a specific area or field, which can be a component of an accredited program or standalone courses supporting the professional, technical, academic, and personal development of the learners. This is how MQA has defined micro-credentials. As an organization, you may choose to come up with how you perceive micro-credentials and how you want it to be for your organization. When you are looking at doing micro-credentials for your organization, you can align it to the GGP, especially if you are an organization under MOHE. A question that some of you may have is, do you have to submit for approval to MQA? You do not have to approve if you are unbundling the courses that are already approved by MQA. The GGP and MQA is relevant for those, especially for those under MOHE. If you are not, you can still refer to this framework, this guideline, as a resource, especially if perhaps you might want to collaborate with a university or tap into the student segment. Even at Open Learning, we have used it as a point of reference. It's just good knowledge to have and to know more about if you're interested in micro-credentials. How can micro-credentials benefit institutions and organizations? The first is that it is a business strategy. So it can be an add-on to the services that you offer. The beauty is that your existing courses, you can unbundle and offer it to a wider audience. So you could tap into a bigger market of students. You can also offer it as a standalone course. And it should be less taxing on educators to create the shorter materials because it is intended that it can be shorter than your conventional traditional courses. It can also be a potential revenue generation stream for your organization, where you can charge a fee for the course. How you wish to price it is up to you, but with micro-credentials, you can get revenue from not just your student base. It could be just anyone who's interested in taking a good course that you have to offer. And when we say students and public, you can also cater specific courses for specific segments. For example, you may wish to have some programs just for SPM leavers. You may want to have programs for working adults, for the elderly. We actually have a short course by an organization in Sarawak where they want to educate the elderly on how to familiarize themselves with using digital device. The third is brand awareness. Not many organizations are doing micro-credentials. So you'll be one of the first to deliver micro-credentials in Malaysia. And you can also partner with the industry to collaborate, leverage on their brand name, plus yours, and boosting the brand image of the organization. How do you develop further understanding on micro-credentials? Use and access resources that are available. For example, I've included here the guidelines to GGP, MTA's guideline. There are plenty of resources online. Equipping yourself with the knowledge would make you more comfortable with micro-credentials. A few months ago or last year, even the concept of micro-credentials was relatively new to me. I've heard the term before, but what does it mean exactly? So the only way was for me was to read up, find out more, talk to my colleagues, talk to other people who are well-versed in the topic, attend webinars. We as a team have been doing that. Any opportunity that we see, that we hear of, we are quite quick to jump on it. Learn from others. One of the leading organizations doing micro-credentials in Malaysia is University Science Malaysia USM, based in Penang. As of last year, 2020, these are some of their statistics: 39 micro-credential completed courses, 128 new micro-credential courses and modules, 15 IP copyright registered with my IPO. So they've even gone on to register to get an IP for some of the programs that they offer, or some of the topics. And in addition to that, more than 50 micro-credential workshops and briefings. One of the champions of micro-credentials for USM is Prof. Karim. If you have not heard about him, do follow him. He's got a YouTube channel. If you just Google his name, you'll find the resources that you can learn from USM. I would also like to share how USM delivers their micro-credential. They use an online learning platform, which they branded as Learning for Life. So with this, this is the branding that they've gone with, which would appeal to the public, learning for life. That means, lifelong learning. You're not limited to micro-credentials. So instead of, putting USM micro-credentials, they've chosen quite a catchy way to attract the audience, learning for life. On the left here, we have the individual or standalone courses that they have listed. Some of these are paid courses. So as we mentioned earlier, micro-credentials can be used to generate revenue. And on the right, you have micro-credentials as part of programs. So here you have a CPD for nurses, CPD for teachers, and instructional design. So this is how you can see you can offer standalone courses or longer micro-credential programs. The second step that you can consider for your organization is to dedicate a team that looks into how do you do micro-credentials, how do you strategize, how do you ensure that you launch and offer micro-credentials to the public. By dedicating a team, then they can oversee this initiative. And it also depends on the size of the organization. You might want to have a big team that oversees it at the top, followed by smaller teams. So you would need a monthly catch-up meeting, a weekly catch-up meeting. You might also want to choose a driver or a few drivers for the projects. This is especially the case if you're in a large organization like a university and you have many different faculties. You have your business school, your science, statistics, and mathematics. Perhaps there could be drivers and project champions in those departments as well. I've put an image here where you can see that different people may have different ideas. Perhaps what we would encourage is also for you to share ideas and plans with your fellow teammates and learn from each other. It's quite powerful in getting towards the goals for your organization. Even in developing the ideas, teamwork, as you say, teamwork makes the dream work. You would also need the buy-in of various stakeholders in your organization. It is not just limited to the content and the educator or the training provider. You would need the support from your management, the IT department, the finance department, if you are looking at micro-credentials to generate revenue, then you would also need to think of the processes when it comes to payment. Where does it go? How does it, how do students pay? Is it cash? Does it go to the bursary? So there are many components that would need to be looked at if you're going to do micro-credentials. To get the buy-in of the stakeholders can be a challenge for some of your organizations, not because of anything. Often they're not, when we're not comfortable with something, we tend to be scared of it. It can be overwhelming. So some ways you can convince them is to, maybe for the lecturers, you can tell them, lecturers and educators, is that it can be launched in a few weeks or just months. It's shorter. And if you go online, you can offer it to a wider audience, not just your pool of students. And when you go online, you can have more time. There's a lot of work maybe at the start, but then your lecturers can just put it online and the students can resource whenever. So you're not limited to live face-to-face sessions if you were to have some materials online. You can have courses that are offered by various educators from different faculties and departments work together, have a program and divide it into smaller chunks. Program A, they have 5 modules. Each educator takes 1 module. You can also do it as part of the master's or PhD thesis, divided and make that part of their project or their goals and their KPI. When it comes to how motivating the people in the organization, you could also have challenges and games. For the course creators, it can be via competition. To get the finance team and your IT team together, you can have team building activities or just have regular touch points. That way, everybody's included in your plans to launch micro-credentials in your organization. The next is driving down to planning the strategy, the micro-credential strategy. How do you do it? Some of the ways is to evaluate your organization's expertise and objectives. What is it that you want to do? What is it that you're good at? What is it that you have to offer? And look at resources, the research demand, research the demand. What are students looking out for? What are learners looking out for? What do working adults want? Some resources that you can look for further information is World Economic Forum's Skills of Tomorrow, Talent Corp's Critical Occupation List, for example. Once you know what people are looking for, then you can match the expertise to those demand. In addition, you may also need to look at the tools that you would need to deliver micro-credentials, the online learning platform, the payment gateway, the badging system. If you're looking at the online platform, do they have the payment gateway to support it? And then the badging system, and as mentioned earlier, if you're going to generate revenue, how does that complement the processes that you have internally to deal with payments and money coming in? The third is you may want to look at collaboration as part of your micro-credential strategy. A key component of micro-credentials is to have an organization that recognizes the qualification. That way, partnerships agreement come into play. If you're a higher education institution and you're offering courses by credits, then you have your MTA. Alternatively, you may want to partner with an industry-led body or a corporate organization. For example, INSEAD University partnered with CIMB to offer leadership programs for CIMB employees. INSEAD is a university and the closest branched campus to Malaysia is in Singapore. So from what I saw from the video is that previously, I guess prior to MCO, the participants go to INSEAD in Singapore to take the leadership program offered by INSEAD. This way, you have a specific program just for a particular segment, a particular industry. On the right, got the SWOT analysis. These are examples of the analysis tools that USM used. So the SWOT analysis looked at their own strengths and their weaknesses and opportunities and threats that may represent. They've also identified the critical success factors for them to launch micro-credentials. So here we have the driver, the workforce, funding and marketing, business model, and people. This is how they chose to go about with their micro-credential strategy. For your organization, it might be different. So it might need a bit of groundwork if you're not already there, but the journey might be worthwhile. The next is when you're developing micro-credentials, 3 questions that you should consider is, as mentioned, demand. It's quite important to know what the demand is like. However, I would also like to add that you don't always have to limit yourself to catering for the demand that is out there. You can also create a demand. So people will only take what is offered. Sometimes if you offer to them something that is useful that they do not know, that they need, that could also be in your benefit. For example, this is just a very layman example. We have masks that it has become a prerequisite. It's mandatory first. If you have seen, there are also mask chains that are being sold. I wouldn't know that such a thing as mask chains existed if somebody didn't just offer it. So I went on to buy a mask chain. Similar with the tools that you have for your phone. When you want to use your Waze, you just need your Waze. But someone's come up with, they're now selling the gadget that you hang at the side of your window or your car aircon to help you. So think outside the box. Perhaps create demand. Offer things that that would benefit people. For example, if you're looking at professional development, resume writing skills. So traditionally, resume writing skills is quite important, right? How to write resumes. But now, a lot of interviews are done online. So perhaps you may want to create a course on 5 tips or 10 tips on getting that job that you are, your dream job by an online interview. Certain things might be different. So perhaps that is something that you can offer to the public. This is just an example. The next one is sizable, the size of the micro-credential course that you wish to offer. Is it small? Is it stackable? Small is a relative term, so it would have to be matched with the course outcomes and the objectives. And so you would need to look at building micro-credential courses with clear outcomes. The next is industry approved. Whether it is industry approved, as mentioned. If it's credit, then you have your MQA. But if it's something that you want to work with an industry-led body, do they recognize that qualification, the micro-credential course? The fourth step is to transform and or develop the micro-credential courses. As mentioned earlier, the demand research that you've done, you can use that as part of the strategy in terms of actually driving down to transforming or building the course. When we say transform existing courses, when you unbundle, you can't just break it down into chunks. You might have to dive down and see how does it fit in a bigger picture, because you still want to meet the objectives of the learning topic. What we would like to stress is when you are unbundling courses, when you're making a big program to a shorter course, you might want to align it to a recognized guideline or framework. And once you've done this, to be consistent, so that once you break it down to a smaller component, when you want to restack it, then it's possible. Restack means, maybe for me, I would like to take 3 modules and I would like them to be complementary. But Aisha may only want to take 1 module, but you have Matthew who wants to take 2. So different people have different needs. But if you're offering the same program, then you would want to cater the needs of these 2 individuals, for example. Similarly, when you're developing new courses, also follow the recognized guideline or framework. And you may want to identify resources and contents that is required. So as mentioned earlier, if it's a big program, you can divide the resource in terms of getting a few lecturers to work on their topic of expertise. You could have mathematics and statistics, and then you can have algebra, statistics and maths by different people to offer a bigger program. The next is to launch courses by phases as they are ready. This is a step or strategy that you can opt if you are pressed for time. That means if you know that your intake is next September and you would want to reach that, but you don't have all of your content ready, or you can't, you may launch materials that are ready first. However, bear in mind that you would need to outline, if it's 5 modules that you want to launch, you must have all 5 modules outlined, and you must stick to a specific and very tight deadline. So you need a very good project manager, because you don't want to disappoint the students that have enrolled in the class. So this is just a consideration that we have put here. But bear in mind that it comes with some limitations, which is you would need to work with a tight deadline. I've shared here some learning design models. This is at the top is an example that was shared by Prof. Karim of USM. Overview, content, learning activities, assessment, and learning resources. These are the 5 components of a module that they have in mind when they're going through their micro-credentials courses. You can also use the EDI model of instructional design, looking at analyzing, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. The 5th is launch and promote. This is a very important part of micro-credential strategy. Once you have developed the course or courses or programs, there is no point in sitting on it and not spreading the word awareness or shouting about it. It's okay to gloat about it because you want as many people to know about it and to enroll. So you need to attract the audience to increase the enrollment for your courses. A very key important area is to plan ahead for the launch. You need to give a very good course description and information. Learners would always want to know what is it about. If you can put in more details, that's always very helpful. I think when you are so used to a certain topic, you think that you understand it. But to someone who is very new, they have very limited knowledge. So it's always good to share as much information as you can. You can also offer a teaser, be it in the form of a video or a course, depending on the resources that you have to make the materials, promotional materials. An important consideration is also pricing. Just some points we would like to share with you for you to consider the other costs. So you have tax, you have your payment gateway. Factor in this cost when you're coming up with your pricing strategy for your courses, for micro-credential courses. You may also want to look at what is a price before discount, in case you may want to make room for discounts at a later date. The start date of when you want to launch your course is also important. You can look at your term dates, but also bear in mind public holidays. If you know that it's going to be a public holiday and on a Tuesday or Wednesday, then you might not want to launch your course on a Monday. However, if you're targeting the working adult market, you may want to launch your course on a Thursday, on a Friday, because perhaps over the weekend, they are more likely to have the time to do the course that you have to offer. Promotion is important. So marketing initiatives, you can also ride on existing promotions. The 11/11 sale in Malaysia is very big, but not only is it 11/11, you have it almost every month. So perhaps that is something that you want to look into if you're looking at offering promotions and discounts. You can also look at a third-party affiliate collaboration to help you push the courses out to the public. If you have, you can use influencers. That is also an option. So in the image on the right here, these are some marketing strategies that you can consider for your online business. So use your social network platform, forums, search engine optimization, blogs, affiliate marketing, promotion, analytics, and email. Perhaps from your own database, you can send out blast emails and newsletters that could also be powerful when it comes to promoting your micro-credential courses. I would just like to share an example here of how two organizations actually, how they partnered together to deliver micro-credential course. So we have Deakin University based in Australia and Rajasthan Royal. Rajasthan Royal is actually a cricket team from Jaipur in India. So you may think, why would it's a cricket team, what do they have to offer? Well, they actually have something to offer. Together with Deakin University, they worked on sports marketing courses. So they launched 2 courses in March of last year. Sports Marketing Foundation and Sports Marketing Advanced. And here, in the blast out, in the write-up that they had to promote these courses, they also mentioned that they're planning for expert level program is underway. In the previous slide, I had spoken about launching in phases. So here, if you know that it is in the pipeline and you feel that it can be of value to the audience, then you can also mention it. Part of how they promote the course is also they're offering it for free to the current and former players of their team. How this is powerful is that these are athletes. They are athletes. Some of them they have celebrity status in their own way. So once they've taken it for free, they will probably share it with their audience, provided that the course is of a decent quality and quite good, and they'll be happy to share it with their own network. It's also part of an upskilling initiative for opportunities for these players after cricket. As you know, athletes, they have a shorter tenure of how long they can be athletes, but the skills, the knowledge, and the experience can still be shared with the public and be useful perhaps they can be coaches in future, or in this case, be a sports marketer. On the right here, this is a screenshot of the course that they're offering online. But I'd just like to draw your attention to where it says benefits of the course. Here they've put Royal Insights via Management Case Studies. So words like case studies, management, this would not just appeal to athletes or people in sports marketing. It might also appeal to somebody who wants to maybe look into marketing itself. So these are some catchphrases that you can use when you want to promote your course. And here they've also put a sample of certificate, and it says your certificate and digital badge to add to your profile. So the information is there. They put as much information to attract students for this course. And here I've also linked the source. We will share the slides with you in a follow-up email after the presentation. You can click on here to find out a bit more. So that is the end of the first session. Next, I'll be talking about micro-credentials with open learning, and here I'll cover the OpenCreds framework and the OpenCreds investment fund for Malaysia. We are keen to be part of the organization's micro-credential strategy. We are, my team and I, since last year, we're working hard on building a network to support the micro-credentials initiative in Malaysia. And so we've come up with OpenCreds. What is OpenCreds? OpenCreds is our own brand of micro-credentials. We have chosen to call our view of micro-credentials as OpenCreds. OpenCreds are aligned with the OpenCreds framework. The OpenCreds framework is something that we have drafted, Open Learning has drafted, and the reason why we've done this is because as mentioned, it's a keyword that can be overwhelming, can be confusing. And so we felt, you know what, we'll work on it. We'll come up with our framework that we share with the public. Hopefully it can help to make the public understand micro-credentials a little bit better. How we came about with the OpenCreds framework for Malaysia is that it initially started off in Australia. Unlike Malaysia, they don't have an MQA, and so through roundtable discussions with people in academia, in TVET, vocational education, and industry, they discussed on how do they want to go about micro-credentials in Australia, and they came up with the OpenCreds framework for Australia. So this was at the beginning of last year. In Q2 and Q3 last year, the team in Malaysia, we've been working on the OpenCreds framework for Malaysia. To suit for our local audience, we've adapted it to align with the MQA's guideline to good practices, as well as the Malaysian qualifications framework. So if you were to follow the OpenCreds framework, it is already aligned to these two other frameworks. And one of the main reasons for this is that it should make it easier to meet the needs of both learners and industry. How the OpenCreds framework works is similar to micro-credentials. They're small and stackable. And the potential of it is that we hope that it can be stackable across the different segments of TVET, professional learning, and higher education. However, bear in mind that you would need to get the recognition, accreditation from the respective organizations in these sectors. The types of courses to qualify for an OpenCred. So we recognize three types of micro-credential courses for it to qualify as an OpenCred. The first is a pathway OpenCred. That means that it is aligned to a formal qualification. And once you take that, upon successful completion, it leads to a formal qualification. So that's pathway. That means it's like a stepping stone. You take this, and then you can take the next level. The next is credit bearing. If you take an OpenCred, then it counts towards credit for a program that you are working towards too. The third is industry recognized, whether it's recognized by an association or accredited body and part of a continuing professional development courses, so CPD. Learning hours is one of the areas that we look into for a course to qualify as an OpenCred. When we're working on the framework for Malaysia, we had a roundtable discussion similar to Australia, and we had representatives from academia. We also had representatives from HRDF and industry. And one of the key takeaways that we learned from that is that HRDF recognizes trainings to be a minimum of 4 hours for it to be claimable. As such, that is why for the OpenCreds learning hours, we have put it as a minimum of 4 hours. This way, if you wish to offer an OpenCred, and it starts at 4 hours, then you can make it HRDF claimable, provided that you meet the requirements for it to be HRDF claimable. So that way, that is why we have the learning hours set from 4 hours. If you're doing a course and it is 2 or 3 hours, you can still call it micro-credentials. That's not a problem. You just can't call it an OpenCred because it does not meet, it is not aligned to our framework and our learning hours. And potentially, you might not be able to get it claimable by HRDF. Subsequently, we have the other learning hours, which is 10, 20, 40, and so on. And just to briefly mention, learning hours is defined as the average amount time for a new learner. So you would have to gauge roughly someone who is with no experience. So someone who's a bit more advanced, it might take them maybe 5 minutes. But for a new learner, you might want to give a bit of an extra allowance of 15 minutes to half an hour. A key component of the OpenCreds framework is also the evidence of learning. What we mean by this is that you want to deliver the learning outcomes of a topic, and it does not necessarily mean that it's assessment or quiz-based. Neither does it mean that it should just be videos. If you're constantly watching videos, then that's in a way, it's a one-way form of learning. I'm just absorbing things that I'm learning. I'm not actually participating. Perhaps if videos is your chosen mode of delivery, you can do like a quiz at the end, or make it interactive by people that they can comment. You may also want to develop activities and ways of learning to train the critical analysis of new ideas and experiences. And the idea behind our framework is also to equip the learner with knowledge and skills that they can apply later on. So you're looking at thinking of concepts, creative thinking, reflective learning, and how this can all be captured is traditionally, it's your coursework, and you work on it over time. Here at Open Learning, the coursework can be immediately showcased in part of a portfolio. We have a feature, as shown in the picture on the right here, where the learning activities, the participants' entries, it is automatically documented and it can be showcased later on. And how this is useful is when the student, upon completion of the course, they may want to use it as evidence for applying for a job later on, or scholarship. That way they can say, look, on top of my diploma degree, I also took a micro-credential course offered by UUM, for example, and this is what I learned. Here's an example. So this is how the evidence of learning is powerful. Right, next is the OpenCreds Malaysia Investment Fund. What is this? So we have a fund catered to help organizations develop and launch your micro-credential course. The value of the fund is 600,000 ringgit. That's the total value, yeah? It's not per organization. So how many organizations that come to us? They're all working towards this pool of fund of 600,000 ringgit. The fund is in the form of either, so the first one is course development by the Open Learning service team. So that means if you apply for this fund, the fund will be catered towards this course development by us. We have our team of learning designers, graphic designer, project manager, to make sure that your course is developed for the online environment and on time. Our team will develop the course for you, but the content and subject matter will be from the organization. That is, if it's the course development by us. The second form of the fund is a financial aid of 5,000 ringgit paid in 2 payments. The course development is by your organization. The 5,000 ringgit, it is up to you. You may want to use it to hire a freelancer or a graphic designer, or to incentivize the educator or trainer to create the micro-credential course. We do not dictate how you have to spend that money. It's up to you. It's just that it will be into installments. The other component of this fund is that there'll be marketing boost by a revenue share model. So as part of the fund, there'll be a 50-50 revenue share for non-open link clients. If you're an existing open link client, then the revenue share is 65 and 35. So the portion of the revenue share will be used for marketing of the courses from on one of our marketplace. And how you can apply for this fund is through an online application form, and we will review your application. And the 3 important areas that we look at is the topic of relevance, the target audience, the objective and quality. We would recommend that you apply and also look into the demand that you have studied, because you would have to justify why you want to do this course. That brings the end of my presentation today. Now it's time for Q&A. So let's have a look at some of the questions that we have. The first one is from Muhammad Ghazali Hassan. Are you working with USM for their micro-credentials? We work with USM in the capacity of, we are the online learning platform provider. So the platform that I had shared on earlier, that is on our open learning platform. However, when it comes to the content and how they strategize, that is all by USM. They're quite forward in how they go about with their micro-credentials. We also offer that to other organizations based on what we've learned in the past few months. We are happy to talk to organizations and help you perhaps look into how you may want to look into doing OpenCreds for your organization. The next question is, a follow-up question from Muhammad Ghazali. Can we hire you as a consultant for micro-credentials for our course material? I would say that we can have a chat with you, find out a bit more of your ideas and what you wish to achieve. At the end of the day, it's also dependent on your organization and how you wish to go about it. In terms of course material, I might be able to get my team to have a look into it. And we can have a chat with you. As to whether I can be your consultant, we will have to see, but I can definitely have a chat with you. And there'll be a form at the end where you can fill in and we can schedule a chat. The next question is from Prof. Karim. It's nice to see you here. Many takers already for the fund. Any institution can apply. Yes, any institution can apply. It is not limited to just open clients. It's open to all, even if you're not a client. If you have any good micro-credential ideas, feel free to apply. Many takers for the fund. We have received applications. As for takers, not that many. So we welcome your application. Do apply before the fund runs out. Right. The next question is a follow-up. Individuals can apply. Yes, individuals can also apply for the fund. Next question. is, what are the ideal skills needed to create successful micro-credentials? Educators have content and expertise. Graphic designers have creative content presentation. Curious, as I heard Nadia mention what RM5K could be used for. This is from Vina. So Vina, what we find is part of what is successful is also dependent on the style of the educator or the trainer that is delivering the course. So what some of the key areas that I can suggest is to mix it up, look at your learning outcomes and try and match it with it. So you may want to break it up in terms of, if it's a text, you may not want to have such a long text. Maybe break it up with other activities in between. Or if it's essential reading that they need to do, then mark it as essential and park it somewhere else. Not have the student, having to read those articles as part of the session that you have with them. Some people would have a different approach where they maybe prefer videos. That also depends on the audience. But of course, you can't, if you're doing a course, you can't cater specific styles for specific individuals. So my suggestion is to divide and change the way you do things. Personally, I'm more of a person who likes to read. I'm less of a video. But what I would like is sometimes you have videos with captions. So that way you're able to target both your learners, which is someone who reads and someone who likes to watch videos. Someone asked, I hope that answers your question. I just can't say in exact detail because it is really subject to your course outcomes and the learning style of the one who is doing the course, the micro-credentials course. For the OpenCreds, does the platform, will it be provided by Open Learning? So just to clarify, if you apply for the investment fund, then it comes with the license for to use the platform. The OpenCred must be developed on our platform. So if you're not a client, we will give you one license to deliver the course, but it will not be a portal license like you see on USM. USM, they are a client where they have their own portal. Are all MOOCs micro-credentials? Can there be offline micro-credentials? So not all MOOCs are micro-credentials. It can only be micro-credential if it meets the requirements that there's a certificate or a badging at the end. So no, not all MOOCs, because you have some MOOCs that are just free for everyone and you can take it and there is no guarantee that you actually complete the course. So with badging and certificate, you need to reach a certain milestone for it to be acknowledged. Can there be offline micro-credentials? It's also the same question that's asked by Rizwan. Yes, however, do note that a component of micro-credentials is that you would need a digital certification. This is as per MQA's guideline. But for your organization, if you choose to have a different way of how you may want to, so Rizwan, I'm not sure whether you are a higher education institution or not. If you are, then higher education registered with MOHE, a digital certificate or badging is required. So you can still have it offline, but you still need that digital badge. Tips to design marketable micro-credentials. I would stress on the demand list and knowledge. You need to know if what you have to offer, is it something that is in demand or useful? I had mentioned earlier about creating the demand. You can create the demand providing that it is something that the people need, whether it's subconscious or consciously. How to design marketable MC. Perhaps if you can later on look again at how Justin Royal and Deakin did it when they did a lot of promotional work when it came to launching the course. Those were how they marketed the course. When it comes to the course component itself, that depends on the course quality. So look at it in two ways. One is the course itself has got to be of good quality. the content and the style and mode of delivery. Second is promoting and launching the courses to get enrollments towards your course. I've got a question here from Sarjit Singh. How can independent training providers partner with higher education? I'm guessing HEP, higher education providers in offering their micro-credential courses programs. I would start with looking at what it is that you have to offer. What are the strong programs that you have internally, and how could it match to something that they need? Perhaps do a proposal on that. You can say, I want to target your I would like to do a course on design thinking, and part of this is to equip your students with skills for employment in the future. This is an example. Then this way you have the ready proposal, and you can talk to the HEP. It might be a bit of an uphill battle. You might have to call. You might not get directed to the right department, but talk to the career department, talk to the academic department, find out who will be in charge to work with you. From the HEPs that we have spoken with, I think most of them will be open to the idea of partnerships with training providers like yourselves. Hope that answers your question, Sajid. Right. A question from Mariam of USM. Should micro-credentials be made fully asynchronous? Not necessarily. Asynchronous. So asynchronous means that it's not live. It is really, it depends on you, on your capacity. Can you always make live face-to-face sessions, even if it's via Zoom or online? And can your students, do they actually participate, or is it better to have it asynchronous as you have mentioned? You have to weigh your options, but no, it doesn't have to be fully asynchronous. Right. What is the difference between micro-credentials and existing online learning? This is a question from Kamal Imran. I'm guessing that you're asking about online learning courses. So the difference is that micro-credentials, they are shorter, they're not lengthy. That is number one. And number two, it comes with a digital certificate or a badge. Those are the key components. So you have a lot of short courses online. But if it doesn't come with a badge or a digital certificate, then it does not qualify as a micro-credential. I hope that answers your question. Right. I would look at any more questions. Okay. Right. The OpenCreds framework and OMIF, if you would like to find out more, and this is the link that you can check out. Here we have the framework that you can download. More information on OMIF, and feel free to share it with your colleagues, your teammates, even if it's people that your friends who might be interested. We would just like to share this information. It's free information and knowledge for everyone. And if you would like to have a consultation, you can fill in the expression of interest form using this link. And my team, either myself or my colleagues, we will be having a chat with you, and we look forward to it. I believe we've come to the end of our webinar. Thank you very much for staying tuned, tuning into this webinar, and look out for the follow-up email and for subsequent webinars and resources that we have to share. Thank you and good afternoon.